Hey guys, this is Ryan with Mama on Mission, and today I'm sharing with you what we read in December 2019. I do have a little bit different setup right now. It's super cloudy out and I'm having to hide out in my room because my kids are busy doing some independent schoolwork out there and taking naps and stuff. So I had to use just my ring light, so it might look a little different, and I'm using my phone instead of my computer because my computer only looks good with natural light, which I don't have right now. So if this looks a little different, that's why. Hopefully we'll get back to regular filming soon. And while I am a little late on sharing what I read in December 2019, or what we read as a family, I am shortly, I think maybe next week or the week after, I'm going to share my top books of 2019. I did this last year also for the 2018 year. And just like, I think I do like my top 5 fiction, top 5 nonfiction, I think is what I did. I'll look back and check, but look out for that video coming soon. Out of everything I read last year, I will let you know what my favorites were and why. But here's what we read in December. Now, remember, or keep in mind that toward the end of December, we kind of took a break from our regular reading in all aspects, even my personal reading. And we read a lot of Christmas type stuff and just were busier in general, so not as much reading got done. And kind of, we did read some stuff that I didn't list here, such as Christmas stories and Bible and stuff like that. So for me, for fiction, I will start off with that. I think I told you guys last time that I was starting Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. This was a story about kind of a mystery surrounding this body of water that tends to lure women and girls into it, and bad things happen to them in this water. And so you're left wondering if there's like a reason for this, like a natural reason, or if it's some kind of, I don't know, witchcraft or something, I don't know. But it was a pretty good story. I would give it 4 stars. It left you guessing. As soon as you would think you would know what was going on, you were wrong. And you really felt for the main character. There is a lot of flashback and forward and all that, but overall you just really felt for the main character, at least I did. And you know, you appreciated when she came to like find her inner strength, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it. But I followed that up with perhaps Paula Hawkins' more famous novel, which is Girl on a Train, which I had never read before. And I didn't like it as much. I still give it 3 stars. It was not bad. If you haven't read it or seen the movie, I think it's a movie now, but I haven't seen the movie. It's about a alcoholic, a binge drinker, who sees something from the train that she takes every day, and she has like this whole plot in her head of who these people are. But then you see how her life and their lives kind of intermingle, their pasts kind of meet up, and what she thinks she saw is not really what she saw. So then you're left wondering, what did she see? What's going on here? But the only reason I give this 3 stars, the story itself was good, just like Into the Water was good. It made me very uncomfortable and very annoyed at the main character. And I think that's kind of on purpose, because, you know, people who deal with alcoholism are very frustrating people. And having an alcoholic as the main character, you're supposed to want to like her, and it's very hard to like her. But I think it did that on purpose to kind of drive the point home that alcoholics are still real people too. And so you just have a hard time with the main character. You're like, no, stop doing that. But anyway, it's a good story. It just made me really uncomfortable, but I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. I think that was kind of the intent. But all in all, because it made me uncomfortable, I have to give it 3 stars, just because it left me like agitated. Like after I would sit and read it for a while, I would get really agitated. And then I had a reread. I reread To Kill a Mockingbird. I hadn't read that since, I think I read it in junior high, and then I think I read it again my sophomore or junior year. I think my junior year in high school. for a reading class that I took, and I just love this book. I mean, it's your epic coming of age story. You know, Scout growing up in a small town and having to kind of feel out small town life, and when crisis strikes, you know, how do we handle that? And good old Atticus always pointing her in the right direction. Just a very good feel-good book, but still hard. You know, it's not just all mush and feel-good. It's very true life stuff. So I give that 4.5 stars. It's just one of my faves. And then one of the reasons why I read To Kill a Mockingbird was because I wanted to read Go Set a Watchman, which is the sequel to Kill a Mockingbird, which I had never read. Also by Harper Lee, of course. And I would give this 3.5 stars. It was not a bad book. If you notice, I am kind of stingy with my star ratings. But kind of like Girl on a Train, I found myself very frustrated with Scout as an adult. She's just a lot to handle and very much unlike myself. And so I found myself very frustrated with her. But it all turns out in the end, and not necessarily how you would think, but still a very good, like, Scout learning about herself type book. And then I read Bud Not Buddy, because it was a book that everyone I knew read when I was younger, but I had never read it. So I wanted to see what that was all about. It's a Newbery winner, of course, by Christopher Paul Curtis. It's another coming of age book if you haven't read it. And it was good. It was lighthearted enough, but having an orphan as its main character, there was definitely some heavier notes in there. And you really felt for Bud Not Buddy. And just seeing him, you know, it was a pretty quick read, but just seeing him on his journey to self-discovery and trying to find some answers from his past through clues that his mother gave him. It was just really heartwarming and good. So 3.5 stars. And then for my nonfiction, that has not changed much. I think the last time I spoke to you in November, I had finished Missional Motherhood and had just started The Gospel Comes with a House Key. And I was reading that all through December, but again, I took a break toward the end of December from a lot of my books, but I am back to reading that again, so I'm still working through it. But I will say one reason why I'm working through it so slow is not because I don't like reading it, it's because it's so heavy and you have to sit and process what you've just read. I thought it would be a little more, well, I guess I just thought it would be less convicting. Because if you think you're hospitable and you think that you do well with others and offering of your home and of yourself to others, read this book and you won't feel like it anymore. And I don't say that to dissuade you from reading it. It's just very, very convicting and has me thinking really hard on a lot of things. I'll give my full review of that hopefully next month when I have it finished. I'm already like 2/3 the way through, so I don't see me reading this into February, but it is so, so good. Let's see. And then for my 3rd grader, he read, I think, 4 books in the month of December. I'm trying to remember because he's read like 3 already in January, so I'm trying not to get into our January reads. He read Encyclopedia Brown Cracks the Case by Donald J. Sobel. He read 3rd Grade Detectives, The Case of the Dirty Clue by George E. Stanley. And then he read Leroy Ninker Saddles Up by Kate D. Camillo. And Dinosaur Cove Swimming with the Plesiosaur by Rex Stone. So these are all, well, 2 of the 3 are part of a series that he is kind of working through as our library has these available. Dinosaur Cove, he's working in order. The other 2, he's just picking them up as he gets them. The Encyclopedia Brown and the 3rd Grade Detectives, as they come in, he just reads them. He gave all of them a thumbs up except for the 3rd Grade Detectives. He gave it like an okay. He didn't dislike it. It just wasn't as good as he wanted it to be. And his favorite out of all these was Encyclopedia Brown Cracks the Case. That being said, and I know I've asked this before, but I'm still on the search for books for a third grade boy that are longer than these that I've listed. So these are like real small chapter books, and he gets through these in one setting. We're talking like less than an hour, and he's blown through them. So his reading level is pretty high. I've never tested it. I don't know officially what it's at. But I want things that are will keep his attention and are wholesome and, you know, appropriate for a third grader's mind, if that makes sense. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I feel like a lot of the things that people have suggested to me, we've already read as a read aloud, which it's been long enough ago that he might be interested in reading them again, but then again, he might not, and he might just dread it. He is also intimidated by larger books, which I don't know why, because he could definitely do it. But he kind of drags his feet when I give him bigger chapter books, but I'm willing to fight against that if I can find stuff that's his level, you know, made for, or not made, but appropriate for a third grade boy, but also more challenging than a third grade level, if that makes sense. And then for read aloud, we are still finishing up The Tale of Despereaux by Katie DiCamillo. I think we had just started it when I talked to you in December about our November read. So we read it the very end of November, most of the way through December until we took a break, and now we've picked it back up and we're about 2/3 of the way through. So I won't give a review of that yet, but I will say everyone in the family gives it a thumbs up. We're loving it. I had never read it before either, so this is the first time for me and I'm really enjoying it. And then our favorite picture book, the only one that I took the time to go find in our house for you, is If the S in Moose Comes Loose. And it's by Peter Herman. This was our favorite picture book this past month. It is very funny, but it is also very, like the premise is, you know, Cow has a friend, Moose, and, you know, well, what happens if the S and the E come apart? Well, she's gonna have to find some glue. Well, she doesn't have any glue, so she has to find all the letters for glue. So it's kind of a word world feel for those of you whose kids watch PBS. And so you have to go like find the different letters, but as she steals letters from one thing, they become something else. And anyway, so it just like follows the whole thing of how she gets her moose friend put back together. So I would give this probably a 3.5. The only reason it's not a 4 or 4.5 is there's not much of a message in it. I mean, she's doing a good thing by putting her friend Moose back together, but there's not a huge message in it. It's just mostly a fun book, but it also does challenge them, you know, mentally, seeing how the word goat, if you take off the G, becomes oat, which then you can put on a B and make it boat. So those who are just learning to read, this would be a good book for them. But it's fun enough that my husband and I and my third grader who can read really well really enjoyed it too. So it's not just for early readers. It's a good read aloud picture book. And that is all we read for December. I will let you know, let's see, I'm currently reading The Gospel Comes with a House Key. I'm getting ready to start for fiction, Watch Me Disappear by Janelle Brown. It's another kind of mystery type book. And I'm also getting ready to start for nonfiction, Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. And I know I've talked a lot about Hamilton just because I really am obsessed with the Broadway show. But, and I've read, I think it was Peggy. But this is an actual nonfiction biography of Alexander Hamilton. And it is a long book, so hopefully it doesn't take me forever. And then our next read aloud after The Tale of Despereaux will be The 100 Dresses, which I know is kind of a classic, but we've never read it, and it's a short read, so that shouldn't take us very long. But if you have read any of those, any of them at all, from December, or the ones that we are going to be reading thus far in January, just let me know what you think of them, and I would love to hear your feedback on it. I thank you so much for watching, and I am glad to be back with you all. Like I said, I have some new videos coming up on the books we read in the entirety of last year, some stuff on my goals for 2020, a couple collabs coming up. So Please stick around. If you have not subscribed, please do so. If you do not follow me on Instagram, I invite you to do that. Same name, Mama on Mission. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.